In this video, we're going to talk about variables and data types. So what is a variable? A variable is a place in the computer's memory where you store the data for a program. Each variable is given a unique name which you refer to it with. There are three different types of data that can be stored in variables. The first type is the numeric type, which stores numbers. And there are two types of numeric variables, which are integer and real. Integers are whole numbers such as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Real numbers have a decimal point in them such as 1.89 or 0.12. Character variables store only one letter of the alphabet. You must always put the value that is to be stored in a character variable inside single quotes. A string variable is like a character variable, but it can store more than one character in it. You must use double quotes for a string instead of single quotes like with a character. Boolean variables can store only two possible values, which are either true or false. So let's take a look at some examples of variables and their different data types. So I'm going to bring up Notepad++. I'm going to create a new class, a public class example 2. I already have example 2, so I'll call this example 3 with my curly braces. Then I'm going to save example 3 as example 3.java. I'm going to declare the public static void main method. Here we go. Alright, so if you wish to store your data inside memory when you are working with data in your programs, you need to know and understand how to declare variables. So the first variable I want to declare is going to be a string. And if you want to declare a variable, you specify the data type first. So in this case, it's going to be a string. And you can use a variable name, let's say name, to be equal to Jefferson. So this is a variable called name, and its data type is a string. Alright, so that's how you declare a variable, and you can assign a value to it. So name is holding the data called variable. When I execute this program, this data Jefferson will be, what was I saying? Name is a variable and is holding a data called Jefferson. So this data called Jefferson will be stored in the variable name. Okay, so that's what will happen when I execute this program. Alright, let's compile and see if we're on the right track. So I'm going to bring up the command prompt and I'm going to type javac example3.java, and it compiled. Alright, so if we wish to spit out this variable name, we can simply say system.out.println name. Okay, so let's compile the changes we've made and see if we're on the right track. So it compiled, and then let's run this program. Example 3, and you can see Jefferson comes out. Okay, so what are the rules of declaring a variable? You declare the data type and the name of the variable. There are name rules for giving a variable name, like this is a valid variable name. String one name is an invalid variable name. This will actually not compile. Let's try it out. Okay, so you can see it says we have two errors here. So the first error, Java on line 6, error, not a statement string. One name is equals to attribute. And example 3, the Java on line 6, error, semicolon, expected. The compiler is confused just because I've disobeyed the Java naming rule of variables. Okay, so please don't ever try to name your variable starting with a number. Always start with an alphabet. You can use a dollar sign to start with. You can use an underscore to start with, but I highly recommend you don't do this. This is valid though, but it's a very bad practice to start your variable names using underscore. And but you can say like name underscore 1. This is valid, but this is not valid. All right, so that's simply how to give your variable names. Now you cannot use a variable name twice or declare it twice. You can use it twice, but you cannot declare it twice. So like if I say string name is equals to Jefferson, you cannot, I cannot say string name again is equals to Achibon. This is not accepted. So let's try that and see what's gonna happen. So I'm gonna try to compile, and I have an error. It says name is already defined in main string. Okay, what it's trying to say here is that the variable name is already defined in the main method. That I had already defined a variable with called name. Okay, so I can't use this variable again. Now you mustn't the name of a variable is all up to you. Like I can say string s is equals to Jefferson. That's still a valid variable name. I can say string x is equals to attribute. That is a valid variable name. Let's compile this and check it out. Okay, so I was referencing a variable called name, which I have removed. So as what the compiler is telling me, system that at the print line name, and it says cannot find symbol. So you can see all these compiler errors. If you see any of this stuff, try and remember that like this one, you are trying to use, if says cannot find symbol, remember you are trying to use a variable that you've not defined. And if you see variable name is already defined in the main method or whatever method, then just know that you've already defined the variable and you can't use it again. So I would like to print out the variable s. So I'm gonna compile, and it compiled, and I can do Java example 3, and the program spits out Jefferson again. All right, but what if someone wants to spit out this s, the variable s, and the variable x? What would the person do? So I can do what we call concatenation. So I can say s plus x. Okay, now the plus sign here is not like adding s and x mathematically, but what it's doing is to join the value of Jefferson, the value of the variable s, which is Jefferson, and the value of the variable x, which is attribute. So let's compile this and run it and see what we're gonna have. So I'm gonna compile. It compiled, and then I'm gonna run, and I have Jefferson attribute, but it doesn't really look good to the human brain because you need spaces there. So that brings me to output formats of concatenation. Whenever you're concatenating a variable with another variable, just understand that the compiler or your program is not going to put the spaces for you. I mean, you can go ahead and put spaces here. That's not going to make any difference because Java is not interested in those spaces. So you compile, and then I run the program again, you see it remains the same output. Okay, so the only way to solve that is to add string literal spaces. So what I mean is that I'm gonna put double quotes here, and I put a space in between that double quotes, and then I concatenate the double quotes with the x. So s concatenated with a space, single space inside this double quote, concatenated with x, is gonna give me the output that I want. So I'm gonna compile this and then I run it, and you can see we're good to go. We're gonna talk about other data types. You can store variables that contains alphabets in string variable. You can store data that contains alphabets in string variables, but when it comes to numbers that you need for arithmetic or calculations, you need to use numeric data types. So what are numeric data types? Numeric data types are data types that can be used to declare variables that will store numbers. And when I say numbers, we have whole numbers, and then we have floating point numbers, or in other words, you can call them real numbers, as numbers that have decimal values. So an example of a whole number can be stored in an int data type. So I can say int age, and I can assign it to be equal to 30. Then let's declare some other data types. So I can say double height to be equal to 20.5. So notice how this one is a whole number and this other one is, oh sorry, this one is a decimal number and this one is a whole number. So whole numbers can be stored in integer data types, and decimal numbers or real numbers, or you can say floating point numbers, can be stored in the double data type. So another data type that we have that can store floating point number is the float, and we can say float f to be equal to 3.5 as a valid number, or you can say float r is equal, I'm just using any variable name that comes into my mind, is equals to minus 0.006. Now when you are using the float data type, you have to put the f at the end of the numbers to indicate that this is a float. And the same thing can be done to the double. You can put a d at the end here, but in the double case it is not mandatory, but in the float you have to do that. So let's compile and see if we're on the right track. So it compiled. So now we can spit out these data types or do some arithmetic with it. For example, we can say float hash equals f plus r, and this is not concatenation, this is addition. So what we're about to do is to add 3.5 to 0.006. Let's see what's gonna happen when we do that. So I'm gonna compile. Okay, I need to that compiles, but I need to run it. So I'll simply say system dot out dot print line, and then I'm gonna say the value of hash is, I'm just trying to make the program interactive. Then I'm gonna concatenate hash with the value of hash is. Now you've been hearing me use the word concatenation. I know you may not understand the spelling, but it's spelled concatenation. And concatenation is the process of joining two strings together to become one. Okay, so that's just simply what it means. So you be hearing me talk about this a lot, and get used to hearing that word. I know it may sound strange. So I'm gonna compile the program again, and then I'm gonna run it, and you can now see the value of hash is 3.494. That is because let me just bring up my calculator for here. That is because if you take a look at the source code, you see that minus 0. Okay, we were adding f and r. This 3.5 and minus 0.006. So if we say 3.5 plus minus 0.006, that's gonna give us 3.494. So you can see that programs can be very accurate in their calculations. So that's a small limited example of variables that I'm gonna give you in this video, and in the next video I will explain to you the different data types that we have, because these are not all the data types that we have. So I'll give you an elaborate explanation of the different data types that we have. So see you on the next video.